and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. I hope you're all having a wonderful today. I hope you're all having a wonderful today. Today, I'm going to be going over the books that I'm currently reading. Now, I've currently got 3 actual books on the go and an audiobook. I will start with the audiobook. The audiobook I'm still listening to, however, I am in the last 2 hours of it. So it's bound to, I'm filming this on a Saturday, so this is bound to be finished by the weekend is over. And that is Becoming by Michelle Obama. It's a book that I've been listening to since November. I started listening to it on the way back from Cambridge. When was that? I feel like that was the weekend before my birthday, so that might have been like mid-December, mid-November I started listening to this. Took a hiatus while it was Christmas and listened to Christmassy bits, and then came back to it. And do you know what? Just the pure sort of extended period that I've listened to this book for has just brought with it so much more. Like it's almost given me time to sort of to process it, and just completely by accident I stopped listening to it around the same time that Barack was just about to start his presidency campaign. So I sort of had Michelle's life up until that point, before the first period I was listening to it, and then the second period has just been very much about Barack getting into the White House, and now I've actually just listened to the section about his inauguration for his second term. I've really enjoyed this. There was no doubt that I was ever going to not enjoy this, but there's bits in there. I mean, I'm not au fait with the American political system, but she makes it so accessible to all, so that for me, living over here in the UK, I feel like I understand what was going on over there, going through her mind. She's an amazing speaker, and the audiobook narrated by herself is a real treat and wonder. I have cried throughout this book. I cried at the bloody I cried at the dedications. It's dedicated to Sasha and Malia, their children, their daughters, Michelle's daughters. And but there's just been moments throughout it where I've actually thought, bloody hell, that's history. Like, obviously I knew at the time the fact that the US's first black president was a massive thing, as well as the US's first lady who is a person of colour. And it's just amazed me. There's just been so many moments in it where I've just felt so enthused and buoyed and amazed. Yeah, I just think Michelle Obama is an amazing person. I've absolutely loved this. It's probably going to be one of my favourite books of the year, and I'm really glad that I gave myself the time to sort of chew it over and to enjoy it. And this is definitely something that I'll be returning to. But yeah, there's so many people have said, oh, would you recommend it? I absolutely would recommend it. I think she's fantastic and amazing, and like, just to have the life she's had and still be so grounded, and it just sounds like such a cliche, but she completely is. And she's such a family woman, as well as being like a previous First Lady of the United States. It's just amazing. So yeah, really loved it, really would recommend it, found it amazing. So then I've got 3 books here. I've got two fiction books and one non-fiction and autobiography. The first fiction book I've got is The Night Watch by Sarah Waters. This is the book club that this is the book for book club that I'm running with my friends. Sarah Waters' books are really big books, and when this was suggested, a few people were like, oh, I think it's going to be a bit too big for me. So I got an early start on it because it is just under 500 pages long. Sorry, it's 503 pages long. But I'm really enjoying this. This follows 4 characters in the 1940s, but moving backwards. So you start in 1947 and then you go back to, I think it's 1944 we're in at the moment, and it follows 4 the 4 characters that you're following are 4 people that worked on the night watch, who would go and take people to hospital if they'd been caught up in bomb raids and things like that during the war. I'm really enjoying the characters. She writes such fantastic characters, but it's really reminding me of Life After Life. There's a part in Life After Life by Kate Atkinson where the character Ursula works in a similar job on the night watch, and I keep having to sort of distance that from my mind, that isn't what's going on here. But yeah, really enjoying it. Really love Sarah Waters. Hoping to read maybe potentially all of her stuff this year, so thinking this is great. And it's a real, if I have read, I can't remember a book which works backwards. So there was things that I was finding out about the characters in the first section, and I was thinking, oh, I really want to know where this goes. And I was thinking, you're never going to know where that goes. suppose, because you're working backwards now. So now we're looking into slightly a few years prior to all the stuff that I found out about the 4 characters in the first section. So very interesting way of writing. So looking forward to reading more of that. So I'm about halfway, no, not even just, about 2/3 of the way through that. And then the next book I'm reading is My Thoughts Exactly by Lily Allen. This is Lily Allen's autobiography, where she is extremely truthful. It's separated in, she explains quite early on that it's not going to be a linear autobiography, because there's things that happened in the past that relate to things that have happened now, and there's things that are happening now which have no relation to anything in the past, and there's things that happened in the past that have no relation to anything. So it sort of just, it jumps around a bit, but it really, really works. I don't feel like when I read that it wasn't going to be in a linear way, I was like, oh, well, I'll be interested to see how that works out. And it really has worked out. It's separated into all sorts of sections like music, love, celebrity, fame, work. There's a absolutely heartbreaking section in here about Lily losing her first child, a son called George, and her stay in hospital and having to give birth to a child who had died. And yeah, she's really been through it, and she's really honest with not just us but with herself. So she's saying things like she's very codependent, and I feel like that's a revelation to her as much as it is to us reading it, like where she's realised this in writing this book, that she's someone who sort of flings herself at someone and says, oh, look after me, and she references that quite a lot in this book, but it all feels fresh and new to her as well as it does to us. She writes very, very well. She writes like very readable, and it's as I say, it's set into sections, like many quite short sections, which I fly through. I feel like her I feel like there's parts of this where I was like, oh yeah, I remember reading about that in the newspaper, or remember reading about that online, where they've really made her out to be this sort of like well-educated, went to private school girl, and what you will find out when you read this is that she actually went to 10 schools because she kept getting chucked out or deciding she didn't want to go there, and private school was just one of them, which she went to for a term. So it's just highlighting how much of how much the media can twist things. And I remember reading that at the time when she first came out, and I loved her music when I was younger. I really, really loved all of her music. I remember reading that she'd been to private school and thinking, bloody hell, she doesn't seem like she's been to private school, and like, but taking it as absolute gospel that is what the truth was, because I'd read it in the newspaper or whatever, when in reality she went to private school for one term. So yeah, it's good to hear her side of the story. And I've really, really enjoyed this. It's taken me back to when I was younger. I used to read quite a lot of autobiographies before I got into my reading jam. Didn't really know what I liked, and I used to read a lot of autobiographies, and it's reminded me of that, like when I first read Jerry Halliwell's autobiography, for instance. I really, really enjoyed reading that, and this very much reminds me of that. When I was I must have been about 14 when I was reading Jerry Halliwell's autobiography. I can't even remember what it was called. I'd like to give that a go again, you know. I really enjoyed that. I got it for Christmas one year. I remember just sitting upstairs in my room reading it. But yeah, this is, My Thoughts Exactly. I really would recommend it. I was very fond of Lily when I was younger, and I used to love all of her fashion sense and her songs, and I used to try and dress like her with prom dresses and trainers and things like that. And yeah, it's been good to revisit her very turbulent and amazing life, really. And then the last book I'm reading is the book that I'm reading for my Patreon book club. That is The Cactus by Sarah Hayward. It's got a sparkly cover on it. This is a sort of... when we do I will link everything to the Patreon book club down below, by the way, if you would like to so join. But I pick a different genre every month for the Patreon book club, and then give my Patreons a choice of 2 and ask them to pick out of that. And this month's choice was women's contemporary fiction. So we've gone for The Cactus, which is a book that was out last year, but it was also, I can't remember the other book that we were up against. Holly Bourne's book, I think it's called How Do You Like Me Now, or So You Like Me Now, and the patrons picked this book. Now this is, there's quite a lot of sort of references. I remember when I've been looking this up, it's very much associated with Eleanor Oliphant, and I've got to say, the main character, Susan, who is 45, I find her a mix of Eleanor Oliphant and Linda Snell from The Archers. If anyone listens to The Archers, maybe you'll see that in her. So Susan, she's got her life is very laid laid out in like she's got this job that she's completely content in, and she's got this home life that she's completely content in. She's just lost her mother, and she's gone to her her mother's house where her brother's now living with he's moved a friend in who needs somewhere to stay while he's in between like travelling and stuff. They've gone to the funeral. The funeral's gone a bit up shit. It's got a bit shit, yeah, and you're finding out more about her life. Now, I'm not enjoying this, but I feel like I've read this before. I haven't read this before, but I feel like I've read this story before, so I'm interested to see where it goes to. But yeah, I mean, I think the cover's lovely, and I feel like it'll be interesting to talk about. But at the moment, it's very much reminded me of Eleanor Oliphant meets Linda Snell from The Archers. But yeah, would be interested if any of you guys have read this before, what you think. No spoilers, please. If you're in my Patreon book club, let me know what you're thinking down below. I'm just actually about to post something to say I'm reading this. How's everyone getting on with it? So looking forward to hearing what people are thinking. So those are the 4 books that I am currently reading in January. We'll be very interested to hear what books you have been reading in January. How is everyone's reading going so far this year? I believe I'm 1 book behind on my reading challenge. I said this year I wanted to read 150 books, and I think I'm on 3. Yeah, I've read 3 books this year, which is 1 book behind. However, all of those have been quite big books, and I haven't read any short stories or anything, any picture books or anything like that, so I'm sure that'll catch up. Anyway, that's not to worry about. It's only bloody January. Hope you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you all again soon for another book tube video. Goodbye.